As a talk show host, I comment about many things in life, but I particularly enjoy Mob Talk, where I talk about the geriatric espresso-sipping psychotic killers of organized crime. And if their names are Gotti and they're in the Gambino crime family, I have an orgasmatic verbal frenzy. Because I know them. I know they're degenerates right down to the marrow of their bone. And when John Gotti Sr. was on trial for the last time, the fourth time, when they stripped him of his Teflon, and he ended up doing triple life without parole at Marion in Illinois, I would critique the trial each and every morning after the day before his testimony. And I would talk about what an enemy of society, a cretin with chromosome damage, a knuckle dragger, a jadrul, a musclehead this Gotti Sr. was. And naturally, every sycophant, toady, and lackey throughout the New York area would call up, disparage me, threaten me, and tell me that I would soon be room temperature. And I would say, oofa to you, and language that I can't even describe here. But you know what? They actually carried out their threats. And so in April, they decided to tool me up. They took out some baseball bats and laid in wait for me to come out of my apartment on the Lower East Side to make my way to WABC at Madison Square Garden. And they hit me about 32 times and rearranged my medulla and cerebellum so that all the furniture was upstairs and rearranged in the wrong rooms, and assumed that I would learn the code of Omerta. I would shut my mouth. Well, the moment I got out of the ER at Beth Israel, I just ratcheted it up. Instead of a half hour a day on Mob Talk, it was an hour a day, and now I talked about unsolved crimes involving Gotti Sr. and Gotti Jr. And that obviously caused him to pop the top, because I didn't realize he was given an AM radio in federal prison so he could listen to me every morning before he would go to trial. And he ordered his son, the underboss of the Gambino crime family, to whack me. He says, you get little Nick Corazzo, who grew up with him in Canarsie. He knows every move. We know Slee was going to resist. And this is the plot. They stole a yellow cab late at night, sawed the handles off on the inside, and turned it into a rolling coffin, and assumed that on one of those mornings I would pick their cab, which had their wheelman, a Gambino guy named Angelo Dundee Bundini Brown or something along those lines, and the shooter, Michael Leonardi. And they would go round and round the block. And Joey D'Angelo looked like a cab driver, and Michael Leonardi was a killer extraordinaire because he was an executioner. And on the sixth day that they went round and round, bingo, lotto day for them, I picked their cab. I jumped in the back, told them, Madison Square Garden, hurry up, Mac. He said, no problem, Sliwa. And I thought, wow, an English-speaking cab driver, a guy who knows where he's going. Man, this is my day. I can max and relax, read the newspapers, prepare for the broadcast. Halfway there, instead of turning left and going west, he turns right to Gavon and goes east. And I said, hey, Mac, turn this hack around. And all of a sudden, he was putting the pedal to the metal, and I could hear the transmission grinding. And I said, I don't think he's taking this to AMCO for a transmission fix. And I said, hey, Mac, I told you, turn this hack around. And then lickety split, within seconds, all of a sudden, some gorilla pops up in front of me who had been stuffed under the dashboard. He's popping a 38 right down at my three-piece set, my lower extremities, not the knife, spoon, and fork. And all of a sudden, he says, take this, you son of a bitch, boom, and he fires. And I could see the fire leave the barrel of the gun. Didn't feel anything and never been shot before, so assumed, wow, this is just a bad dream or a misfire. And by the time I could come to my senses, as my heart was beeping and I felt like Robbie Robot in Lost in Space, danger, Mr. Robinson, danger, he raises the gun, fires a second time, and now I feel it, the cramping, the blood is spewing. All of a sudden, I'm in a panic, and I immediately dive for the door, figure I'll dive into oncoming traffic, risk becoming a speed bump, and they knew I would do that, and as I reached for the handle and pulled to yank it open, it came off from my hand, and pow, a third shot right through my legs like a hot knife through butter. I've now been shot 3 times. I'm bleeding like a sieve. I'm stuffed beneath the driver, trying to avoid the headshots. I'm fighting the gun off so he can't pop 2 in the back of my head. And then all of a sudden, I pick up my Guardian Angel walkie-talkie. I say, Angel 1, code red, Angel 1. And they start blabbering away. And it distracts the driver, Joey D'Angelo, who thinks maybe it's NYPD 50. So he drives on the sidewalk. He drives back onto the street. He makes a radical turn going south towards the Williamsburg Bridge, and I feel a gust of wind, and I said, feet don't fail me now. I got precious little energy, so I used the cushion in the back to see, as if it were a trampoline, dived in the direction of what I felt was an open window because I felt the gust of wind. Luckily, they had opened the window just moments before they had picked me up because the air conditioner wasn't working. Lucky that the AC wasn't working. I made it halfway out the window. The gunman panics. He realizes, oh my God, he's out the window. So he pulls me up by my belt. He puts the gun in my back. The driver at the same time crashes me into parked cars. I smash me like sardines, nut to butt. They pump that final bullet in the back, push me out, and figure I'm dead on arrival and I'm sucking concrete. Next thing you know, they scrape me up off the asphalt, put me in the gurney, put me in the meat wagon, throw me on the emergency route of Bellevue, and they start cutting and chopping. And an hour and a half, well, actually hours later, days later, I wake up in intensive care with every tube and every orifice of my body, the bells and whistles. I wake up slowly. I see that first face that indicates to me that I'm alive, I'm not dead, and it's Ed Koch, my former nemesis, the former mayor of the city of New York, who thought I was a hemorrhoid in a red beret, and I thought I had died and gone straight to hell without an asbestos suit. When I came to my senses, I realized I was alive. I took a licking and came back ticking, and let's face it, it wasn't my martial arts skill that saved the day or my street smarts. It was the man upstairs who decided I wasn't ready to be punching on the time clock yet and going out feet first.